my sales advice would be, it's about trustworthiness and reducing anxiety in the sales process. If you can get those two nailed down, I think you're on your way to being a good salesperson. You got to make sure that the customer feel comfortable with you and the product you're providing, and you got to help them make the decision in a way where they feel comfortable that they're not going to get burned.
All right. Well, this is the Wisenetix Podcast. Thanks for listening to us. I'm Daryl. I'm the host. I'm the head of sales here at Wisenetix. And today I've got Magnus Leth with WashPower. He's the vice president over there. Magnus, how are you doing today, man?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on the podcast here today. It's an honor.
Awesome. Super happy to have you. Love the conversations we've had before. Tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about what you guys do there at WashPower.
Sure thing. So just very briefly about myself. My name is Magnus. I'm 29-year-old, and I am vice president for WashPower here in the U.S., a small subsidiary of a bigger Danish company. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not a U.S. native. I grew up in Copenhagen, Denmark. I am a bachelor in political science, shopped around a little bit for different things, tried law a little bit, studied some marketing also before landing on political science. So I was a little bit all around. Came to the US working for the Foreign Service of Denmark, actually was part of something we call the Trade Council of Denmark, which basically is trying to create business ties between Denmark and the US. Started out in Houston, then got to Chicago. In Chicago, I was in charge of an initiative within agriculture to kind of bind the agricultural sector in Denmark with the US. And through that position, I got in contact with WashPower. WashPower was already off to a good start in the US and was looking to create a subsidiary here in the States. And I was so lucky that I got asked if I wanted to be in charge of that. So that's my story, very briefly.
That's a pretty cool story. Copenhagen's beautiful, by the way. A little jealous.
Yeah. It's great. I'm blessed to be here in Chicago, which is also a very, very beautiful city, especially in the summertime when you can enjoy Lake Michigan and all that good stuff.
It really is. I love Chicago. I've got a few good friends from there. Do you have a favorite pizza in Chicago?
Well, obviously I've tried the Chicago pizza. I think it's good to try. I'm not sure if that's my favorite. I think I enjoy more traditional Italian style pizza with a thinner crust.
That's fair enough. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one. Chicago is my go-to, but it's true. You can only have like the slice. If you try to go past that, you're going to have a bad night.
For sure. And I think you're paying a price for it afterwards, all that cheese and all that, man. It's rough.
You certainly are. And younger me could pay that price. Older me, maybe not. So let me ask you this, because everyone, I always find this interesting, is what would you say are your top 3 achievements, and kind of what did you learn from those experiences?
So I'll give you 2. In Denmark, we are very modest, so I'll give you 2. I think the first one is more on a personal level. I was very a little bit worried about coming here to the States. How would I fit in? Would I get a group of friends, and would I be able to thrive here? Got here 4 years ago. I literally got here with a bag, and I had found a roommate through a Craigslist down in Houston. All turned out well, and I'm just very proud of being able to be where I'm at now with a job that I'm very proud of, and with a great group of friends and a beautiful and sweet girlfriend. So that's something that I'm proud of. And then I would say on a more professional level, the position with WashPower has really been, a blessing for me. I've been very happy about them putting so much trust in a relatively young and unexperienced guy. And it's just been a great learning experience for me, kind of, getting around all aspects of business, everything from accounting to legal aspects to sales and production and what have you. So that's been great. So I'll keep it at those two.
All right. I've never heard that Danes are humble, but I'll agree with you there on that. Really kind of cool. I don't know if I would look in Craigslist for a roommate now, but
I've
maybe
heard
4 years ago.
That's not a good idea to do.
Yeah, you're lucky that wasn't an axe murderer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. We're super happy to have you. I mean, I love talking with you, but this is also going to be a pretty funny question for you. How would your parents describe what you do?
So that's an interesting question. I grew up in a kind of an academic home. My dad is a historian, and my mom is a geographer. So they've been very far removed from anything to do with business or marketing, and even further removed from anything to do with agriculture. So I don't know exactly what they would describe what I do. I mean, they know the basics of what my job entails, running the business here in the States for WashPower and so on. But all the kind of nitty-gritty of the business and what it means to be in agriculture and how we produce protein and so on, that's something that they have no experience with. So they're always very interested in hearing about it. Hearing, first of all, how is it with the business, but also hearing about the things that I'm out here experiencing in my line of work.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Is there an area of geography that your mother focuses on, or history that your father focuses on, or are they very general?
My dad was he just retired, but he written some of the maritime history of Denmark.
Okay,
and
that's cool.
Latest, he was overseeing a museum of the industrial history of Denmark. So I guess there might be a little bit of ties there to business, but in another way. My mom is in a completely different field now. She's working in the administration of a business school in Denmark.
Okay, that's awesome. I'm a big history buff. And unfortunately, there's a meme going around about, my teenagers brought it up about white males and thinking about the Roman Empire. And of course, the book I'm reading right now is about the Roman Empire, about Hannibal, and about Alexander the Great. So I'm getting cheesed all day, every day if they see that. But thanks for sharing that about your parents. It's really cool. And always cool to see people come from academics and how people ended up in agriculture as well. Kind of shifting to the marketing side, what are your thoughts on content marketing and kind of how do you see its differences compared to your traditional marketing, your paper pamphlets and all that stuff?
That's a great question. I mean, I think to start with, I think a lot of people have a certain amount of content for advertising. You know, it's annoying. You're getting bogged down with pop-ups on a website, or you're seeing commercials in your favorite shows, or what it might be. The way I look at it, I think the issue is advertising can be really great. I mean, it just has to be targeted to you. The annoying part is really when you're seeing advertising that has nothing to do with your situation. When I'm watching a TV show and it gets interrupted by somebody trying to sell me baby diapers, that's not relevant to me, and that's just annoying. But if I'm seeing something that's really helpful to a purchasing decision that I'm in the middle of, that's great. Somebody's pushing this laptop over another laptop, for example, that might help me make a better purchasing decision. So I think the issue is badly targeted advertising. And I think a lot of the traditional marketing channels are suffering from that. It's basically, the way I see it, a shotgun blast, and you're trying to hit everybody and their mother. And that's just not very conductive to business, I think. So that's where I really see the advantages of content marketing. You can make something that's really relevant for the audience that you're trying to target. And if you do it really well, you can even make it so that it's something that they might watch anyways, listening to their favorite podcasters, and you can pitch in there, or it could be something on YouTube or on TikTok, something they would navigate to on their own, and not something that is, forced down their throat, like many times in traditional marketing. So that's really where I see some of the benefits of it.
Awesome. I love that you said shotgun blast to traditional marketing, because that is really what it is. I mean, I think you put it the best way, the diaper commercial while you're watching a movie. If you don't have a need for diapers, that commercial means zero to you, other than here goes 5 minutes of my time. And I agree. Content marketing allows you to get to a very targeted person who's going to want to consume it either way. Kind of building on that, digital media is a big part of content marketing. How does WashPower use digital media right now to build relationships with its audience?
So one of the things we have been successful in, I think, is trying to go down some more untraditional routes. So we've had some success with engaging an influencer on YouTube. I contacted him, asking him about whether he would be interested in testing out our robotic power washer. I thought it would be a great, relationship, a mutual relationship. People are interested in new technologies, and it's relevant to his audience. Obviously, we want to go out there and try and spread the word about what we're doing. So that's one thing we've had a lot of success in. I think what really hit the nail with that was we got to the audience that we were targeting, and also we, as a salesperson, you're always, you're not necessarily the most trustworthy person because you have an interest in selling a product, and that's always an issue, So I think if you're able to go out there and get somebody else to talk about your product and tell them about their experience about it, both good and bad. I mean, we doesn't mind if they say, there might be this thing that the robot is not getting completely cleaned or whatever. We want an honest opinion about it, and that's part of building some trust with the target audience that we're in. And I think that works way better than trying to portray some sort of picture perfect thing, because there's always going to be something, So I really like that. That got us a lot of attention and really helped launch our business here in the US.
Awesome. And it's interesting that you went the influencer route, but they do get to a very specific audience. And if that's what you're targeting, it's perfect to get there. And you're right. Trust is salespeople. That's probably our biggest hurdle.
Exactly. And I think, going back to traditional marketing, I think we're also faced with the issue of we're trying to bring something new to the market that people haven't heard of. If we just plaster a washing robot on the front page of some swine-related magazine, people are going to be looking at that thinking, what the hell am I looking at, So we need somebody to tell our story in a way that would engage our audience, have them interested in it, and also in something that's a little bit more lengthy, so we get an opportunity to show the product and what it is that it actually can do. And for that, it was just great. It worked, I believe, way better than what traditional marketing would have given us.
Absolutely, and I'm sure I like to look at feedback as free consulting, and I'm sure the feedback from that was great for you guys as well.
For sure, and I think when you are a business, I mean, the issue if you're trying to launch a new product, you're trying to build something for the market. But you don't necessarily know exactly what it is that the market wants. The easier way is to try and get feedback from your existing customers and then build something that they really like. That's at least my way about it, thinking about this. I mean, getting the product right is one thing, but you might get the product right, but for a market that doesn't exist. And you can get around that by really engaging with your existing customers and getting feedback by speaking with people in the industry and hearing feedback on the posts that you do on social media and so on, reading through the comments and so on.
That's awesome. That's great advice for anything, really. Jumping kind of in that little feedback area, what are the biggest challenges that you guys are facing right now in terms of marketing and communication at WashPower, and kind of how are you tackling that?
I think there's just this paradox when launching a new product. I should say we have been in business since 2016. So we have a product that's very established in Europe and in Denmark especially, but it's still pretty new to the US market. So this is something that relates to the US market. But there is this paradox that when you're going out and selling something the first time, you're speaking with somebody who we're dealing a lot with these bigger corporate farmers, and you're speaking with some director of production. And my feeling about how they're seeing things is, they've got a great job and they don't want to put their neck out on some product from Denmark that they've never heard about. So next step is, then you go and, we have all these statistics from Denmark. We know we can clean so much, we can save you so much labor, and here is a return on investment calculation. You'll get your money back in a year and so on, And halfway through that conversation, you have kind of lost his interest because you're throwing numbers and statistics and all that at him. And so I think then they just default to, who's using this product and who can I contact to learn about it, because they don't have the time to go through all the statistics you're throwing at them, and they don't have any way of verifying what you're saying is actually true. So the easy route for them is who's using it. And that presents an issue when you're launching something new. I mean, if your answer to that question is everybody's using it, and then you're already there, and there's no need to make another sale because you're already sitting in Bahamas with a drink in your hand, enjoying all your millions. So, and if your answer is nobody to that, that poses an issue, because why is nobody using it? So that's really the hurdle that I think we have to get past. So the thing that I really try to put a lot of emphasis on is trying to build case stories with our customers, talking about the benefits that they have seen, getting videos from our customers, getting testimonials and so on, because that's really what can build that trust with somebody who doesn't have the time to look into every detail of your product, to get them to be interested in eventually buying your product.
Sure. No, all of that makes sense. So would you say you're probably have you heard of the diffusion of innovation, or like the early adopter kind of graph?
Yeah.
You're probably in the thick of that.
Yeah. So the way I see it, I think in Europe, we are probably at a place where we are getting past the early adopters. It's being considered an established technology that works, and if you have a bigger farm, you're using that because it makes sense. In the US market, North American market, we're more at an early adopter stage, and we still have to go out there and preach and really make sure that we are presenting our case and are telling about the success stories we have here. It's not accepted yet as this is the way to go forward if you want to wash your barns more efficiently.
Sure. I just want to point out, you said yet. I believe it will be the standard in the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a job that anybody particularly enjoys, and with the labor restraints in the industry right now, I have to say this obviously, but I can't see it going any other way.
No, absolutely. All of these, what you just said, kind of brings me to the next question, where obviously you're an innovator, early adopter stage, because it isn't a new company here in the US, right? How do you build brand authority and thought leadership in the marketplace right now? And how important is that for WashPower? I know we kind of touched on it with the case studies.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, I think a lot of sales has to do with trustworthiness of you as a salesperson, and it has to do with reducing anxiety for the customer in the buying process. They're sticking the neck out for you. They don't want to, be the one who invested in some product that turns out not to be great. And I think a part of that can be being a thought leader in the industry and being the guys that people go to for advice. In our case, advice on how do we get our barn cleaned, how do we save on labor. So I think that's very important. We try and engage as much as we can, through social media, through doing podcasts. And we've also been thinking a lot about how we can engage with some of the universities, seeing how can we further document the benefits of our product. How can we use them as kind of a show, a showroom for our product by helping them out with maybe washing some of their barns, but they also can get to learn some of their students about what we think is the future of farming and so on. We've also done things, for example, like bringing pork producers back to Denmark on a trip, not necessarily just to see WashPower and do an elevator pitch that takes a week, but actually teaming up with some other Danish companies and bringing them around to farms and knowledge institutions and so on. And that's also been working pretty great. I think, you get to talk with your customers. You can exchange knowledge both about, there's some stuff we can learn about pork production in the US and some stuff they might be able to learn from pork production in Denmark. And part of that conversation can be robotic power washers, but it can really be anything. For us, it's just more on getting the chance to engage with potential customers and, showing them something different, teaching them about how we see things done and learning from how they see things.
That's awesome. I love that approach. Also, next time you do it, I'm open anytime to going to Denmark. Danish food has a special place in my heart. So just let me know. You got my email.
One of the few. I've never heard that one before. Have you had? Have you tried a pickled herring?
I have. I have.
Okay. Did you like that?
I have. I do. I don't know why I do.
Okay.
I don't know why I do. I'll be honest. I'm adventurous. Let's just say that. My wife is Cuban, and her father cooks a lot of Cuban food that's very. Most people from the U.S. probably wouldn't eat it. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But it's so good. You just have to try it. Sometimes it is that. And you can't go wrong with fried pork belly either. So
that's true. That's
you just can't go wrong. It's always a winner. If it's on the menu, I'm getting it. So with all of what we've said right now, obviously it takes a very special person and to do all of it. What is one of the most important traits, in your opinion, someone needs to have to be successful in a position like yours?
That's a good question. I think at least this is going to be relating to me, at least for me, being an outsider to the industry. I grew up in a city far removed from agriculture. I think one of the things that have helped me has been just a genuine curiosity about things. I'm always interested in going out there and seeing what's going on the farm. To me, I don't know every nook and cranny and every part of the operation out there, but I'm always interested in learning about it. And to me, that's been a great way both to get a better understanding of the application that our product is working in, and also, people like to talk about their operation, what it is that they do, and so on. And when there's somebody willing to listen, then you also get an opportunity to build a relationship. So I think curiosity is a good trait to have. I also think having some empathy for people out there on the farm, the situation that they're dealing with. power washing a barn, that's not the most fun job out there. We want to be those that are helping them with that. So we want to be empathetic about helping them get rid of this tedious task, and be empathetic also in the after sales of the product. Want to be sure that we're able to provide good service and helping them with issues, whether they are how do we set up the robot to do even better than it is right now, or how can we use it more efficiently in a specific layout. And then I think, it helps every salesman to be enthusiastic about the product. I think that really rubs off on your customers when you're out there and, seeing things are working out great and it's washing away. That always gets me excited. And I think that rubs off on our customers also. So they share that.
Yeah, moods are contagious, right?
Yeah.
If mom's not happy, nobody's happy. It's kind of the same thing, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that you said curious, because I feel that's super important as well. I'm an outsider myself to agriculture in general, and it probably feels the same way to you, where when we're learning about the industry or talking to our customers or our prospects, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose a little bit.
It is. I mean, and there's so much lingo and things you just don't necessarily know about. And I think it doesn't help trying to, the other route you could go down would be to try and portray yourself as somebody who knows everything about it. And I just don't think that's very conducive to trying to build some sort of trustworthiness about your character. I would rather just be, upfront about it. I'm a newcomer to this industry. I'm curious. I want to learn everything I can, but I'm not going out there pretending I know anything about it. One of the most important things is that trustworthiness. And if you don't have that, then you might as well go home and pack your bags.
That's right. I couldn't agree more. So did you ever have a mentor, like professionally, that kind of helped you get going? And who was that, and how'd they help?
So one person I want to mention is my colleague Lars. He's an old rat in the sales business. He's been selling anything from computer systems over speakers to barbecue grills, and I don't know what. He knows every little trick and whatever there is in the book. So he's always been a great helper, and I think what he does well is, talking about that enthusiasm you can have for a product. That can also sometimes steer you a little bit off course as you get excited about a new opportunity or something we think we should develop or whatever. I think he's been very good at, managing without micromanaging, kind of being those bumper rails on a bowling alley. He's there to save you when you're about to go down the gutter, but he's not trying to control your whole path.
Right.
So I really want to mention, I think he's been a great help to me, especially as I don't have a business background. So there's a lot of things for me still to learn that aspect too.
Awesome. He keeps you grounded.
Yeah, for sure. It
keeps you grounded. Awesome. I like hearing about old sales dogs. They have some good stories too.
That's true. That is true.
Did you always want to be in sales? I mean, I know your title's vice president. Are you VP of sales, or is sales kind of your wheelhouse for WashPower right now?
Well, that's kind of funny. I usually say being vice president until recently, we were only me here in the States. So I usually said that I was second in command in a company with only one employee.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's a good place to be. Then nobody can hold you to anything. Right? But I would say the more precise description of it would probably be VP of Sales. We just got our first employee here in the States, a guy called Jake, who is off to a flying start already. So that's also nice getting some colleagues over here. But I mean, it was never something that to me, this has always been very far removed from anything I thought I'd be doing. Studied political science, went into this whole trade relations world. So I never thought I would end up where I'm at. And sometimes I have those moments when I'm out some rural place in the Midwest on my way to a sow farm or what it is, where I think, how the hell did I end up here? But that's just that's just life, and that's also what makes it a lot of fun. You end up places where you never thought you would be, and that's great. So yeah, short answer: I never thought I would be here, but I really enjoy it. I think the common denominator in what I've done so far, I think it's something with connecting with people. I've always enjoyed that part, and I think the adventurous part. Going out where you don't necessarily are able to touch the bottom, being in some new situations, going out, seeing different things. I enjoy that stuff. You get to do that a lot. Salesperson, as you're driving around and visiting with customers, and you also get to do that in the position I had before, connecting all kinds of different companies in Denmark, companies in the US, and so on. So I like that.
I love the outlook, and I think that's what I like about it too, is that not every day is the same, and you get to meet a whole bunch of different people you probably would have never met if you didn't do it. And you're right, it makes life interesting. What is one piece of advice that you'd give to someone starting out in a similar career?
So I think my sales advice would be, it's about trustworthiness and reducing anxiety in the sales process. If you can get those two nailed down, I think you're on your way to being a good salesperson. You got to make sure that the customer feel comfortable with you and the product you're providing, and you got to help them make the decision in a way where they feel comfortable that they're not going to get burned investing in something that is not going to work. And one of the things you can do is what we've talked about earlier. Be sure you have your references on point and you got something to present. These are the ones who are using it. You can talk with this guy. Yes, this and this experience with it. Here's a case story, and so on. So I think those are really the things that it's about. And if I should give a more general advice, I would think it's more about just going back to curiosity. Also, just jump into things. That's always been. It's never really done me any wrong. The worst thing that really can happen is that you learn that there's something you don't want to do, and then you can move on from there. So I would say, jump into things. You can always make. You can always turn around, go down a different route if you've started on a wrong path.
That's right. You can always back up. That's great advice. I'd like to probably add to it, because sales is what I do, is listen.
Yeah.
Just listen. That's a big thing. Listen, and that helps with the trust part.
Yeah.
People want to be heard. So here's as we kind of wind down here, we've got 3 questions left. What do most people misunderstand about you the most?
I think there is some cultural differences between the way business is conducted in the US and the way it's conducted in Denmark. And that's been something that I needed to learn. But I think in general, in Denmark, we might be a little bit, introverted, and if we're out selling something, it's like imagining a German engineer, here's the product, this is the dimensions, here's the return on investment, do you want it or not? Whereas my experience have been that here in the US, it's much more about your relationships, and that you're somebody that people think they can trust, they know you, and so on. Much more out and having going to networking events and maybe out and having a dinner or whatever to try and build that trust than it is just presenting the facts. And so I think that's more something that you got to learn when you are coming from a different background, knowing the different cultural differences between countries.
That's interesting. Would you say that's for most of Europe, it's more black and white? Here's the cost, and value relationship-based relationship, or?
I think that's more us crazy people in the Nordics, including Germany, who are just been sitting in darkness and cold for too long. So we just gotten introverted.
Eating pickled herring. Fair enough.
We haven't learned to socialize yet. So I think that's more on us.
Fair enough. Great answer. Kind of building off that a little bit. Do you have a favorite trip that you've ever been on?
For a vacation, I think my favorite trip was going on a road trip with one of my close friends, where we drove from Chicago all the way out to Yellowstone. It was just an amazing trip. Seeing Yellowstone was amazing, and it's coming from Europe. It's something that is very special. We don't have anything like that, and it's a trip that people would be saving up for years if it was something they were doing while living in Europe. So that was something I was very that was a lot of fun and very awesome. Interesting to see. I really like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually have a friend in Chicago who did the exact same thing.
Okay.
Went from Chicago
he might tell
to
you
Yellowstone.
that the first couple of hours of driving, first 10 or 15, might be a lot of not so interesting stuff, just cornfields on each side. But once you get past, get to the western part of Nebraska, then it starts to get really exciting.
That is true. It's a lot of flat, boring land for most of that front drive there.
Well worth it.
Well, that's on my list too. I'm hoping to do it sooner than later, because it is beautiful in the pictures and everything. Super happy you got to do it.
For me, not being a native to the U.S., when I think of the U.S., or at least before, I would think of all the big cities, New York and L.A. and so on. Think of that as the U.S., but there's so much great nature, which is really worth exploring. So that's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, you'll have to come kayaking here in the mangroves in Florida. See all sorts of crazy stuff.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird stuff in the Everglades, people included.
Hell yeah.
So with that, we're kind of at the end here. The last question I've got for you, Magnus, is where can listeners find you online?
If they want to connect with me directly, I think the easiest way is probably LinkedIn. If they want to learn more about our company, it's WashPower.com, where they can check out our offerings. And there they can also find contact details for both me and my colleague, Jake.
Awesome. Well, Magnus, thank you so much for coming on the Wisenetix podcast. Again, he's with WashPower. Yeah, no, we'll have you again, I think, or at least you and I. If I go into Chicago, you and I are getting a beer for sure.
For sure.
But thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.